Hello and welcome to a special edition of Soccer to the Max. And Eric, I thought when we started, we had this idea of okay, let's just do a show for the Champions League draw, the UEFA Champions League draw, I should note. And now we'll talk about that. I didn't think, oh, the U.S. national team was going to release their roster on the same day, and we're going to have more information on what's going on with potential more big transfer news. So, we basically just have a whole nother episode for you, two episodes in 1 week, for everybody here. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show from Wednesday morning, or if you watched live on Tuesday night. So this is more of a late night thing. I'm not expecting anybody to be watching live right now, but hey, if you do wind up watching later on YouTube, do appreciate that either way. And of course, we are a part of WTMnet.com and also in partnership with Last Word on Soccer, possibly Last Word on World Football as well. So thanks to them for allowing us to be on their audio feed as well on the Podbean, the Last Word radio. And of course, if you're this first time you're listening, or watching, and you maybe you don't have time to watch, but you have time to listen later, we are available on pretty much all those audio places, podcast places you can imagine. If you've heard of an audio place, we're pretty much probably there. So if we're not on an audio place that you prefer to listen to, let us know. Either leave a drop in the comments there, or just hit us up at Squid Sportshead for Eric on Twitter. I'm at WTMSean. Or you can just do the old email, WTMNetwork@gmail.com, and leave us there. So I can't play the amazing music because we'll get some kind of copyright infringement here. But, Champions League draw happened. And right off the bat, Eric, we have I think my headline from this is even if we don't have a Cristiano Ronaldo move to Manchester City, which is still a little bit in doubt because of the now fortified offer, you could call it a bigger offer from Real Madrid for Kylian Mbappe. There's still that rumor floating around of PSG, if they did let Mbappe go, would want to look at Ronaldo. And Giorgio Mendes did fly to Paris and talk to PSG as well. So that is out there, and it's a possibility that we could still have your rumor, Eric, of Ronaldo, Messi, and Neymar all playing together happening. But okay, let's go with the scenario that at this point seems more likely, right? Of Ronaldo going to Manchester City. Whether that happens or not, obviously the huge headline I think out of this entire draw is the fact that Manchester City, PSG rematch from last year, but like two teams that you're wondering if you're going to see them again in the final, playing in the group stage, not once, but now they're playing twice. Like, how do you feel about that? Just right off the bat, getting that huge game.
I mean, with all the talk about Champions League and wanting to see blockbuster matches, that Group A draw, you couldn't have asked for anything better. Because yes, all the sources are now saying this deal with Man City and Ronaldo's just about done. He's talking with other Portuguese players at City, getting the lay of the land. So you put it the best way. If that does happen, it's like this is the direction the soccer gods really want to go, giving us Ronaldo versus Messi one last time. We know potentially twice. And the way that both clubs are really set up, Pep Guardiola, top brass at PSG, they say this is our crown jewel. We're going to make the push to win. So maybe this in a sort of a final, it would be for fantastic soccer and fantastic television. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what's we shouldn't underestimate here also is that last year when Jesse March was the head of Salzburg, RB Salzburg, he almost got them through. I mean, obviously, he's just the coach. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
playing on the pitch, but he almost got them through. Now you have a better set of players, obviously, uh, better talent that you're playing against in that Group A. But don't sleep on RB Leipzig. Obviously this is played throughout the year, so it's not like we're just playing a bunch of games once and being done with it. You don't know what the forms are going to be in. I wouldn't sleep on Leipzig possibly being a solid contender all the way throughout and making City and PST sweat for that second spot.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down, say we're at the final match day, which would be match day 6, Leipzig is in the mix, and one of those two teams are teetering, and you've got one, if not both matches, helping determine who gets second, who gets third. Leipzig could indeed pull something off because of how they've grown, and again, their talent infusion, everything else. So it's one of those things to keep an eye out for. Hopefully, when you get towards the second half of the group stage, Leipzig are still in it. Because again, that would be another sleeper, great storyline to see. All right, what's going to happen here? And then if they do squeak in, one of those two giants now moving down to the Europa League, then what?
Yeah, that would be insane to think about, right? Like Man City or PSG moving down to that to that Europa League. Would they still like think about it the same way? Would they put the same amount of care when you're moving down to the next rung in the Europa League if you don't make it through? So that to me is something to watch out for. But I just think obviously you want to have that Ronaldo Messi matchup,
Mm-hmm.
and not to get see it once but twice. But if you don't, I still think like PSG getting to have a little bit of revenge. You get Messi going against his old coach in Guardiola. I mean, there's just so much juiciness there with those two. And sorry, Club Bruges. Uh, I don't know. They're there for probably just they make up the group.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
much else to say. I
they
would say the Canadian international Buchanan, he may be making a move to Club Bruges, so might get to see him there as well. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, they could get a couple points here and there, but really for Club Rouge, this could make a better case for the Beneliga coming up with Belgium and the Netherlands. It's like, hey, you see, we're here and we can do this. If we had a little bit better around us, we could make that similar sort of noise.
Yeah, definitely. So, what's the story? What's a headline for you coming out of this Champions League draw? Like, what's something else that either you're looking forward to or you think is really intriguing?
I can't say I'm looking forward to half of this, but I've got my eye on groups E and F. With Group E, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. We all remember the 8-2, that whole shambles. Now, a Barcelona without Messi, are they going to be up and have what they need to extract that little bit of revenge? We know they're going to be motivated for it. Or is Bayern just going to go ahead and potentially rub it in their face twice? Yes, we are your bogey team. We're going to be making these runs. Your glory days are done.
Well, I mean, Bayern's already made them feel the pain in the past already.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, can't forget the absolutely ridiculous uh, monster of a win that they had against Barcelona a few years ago. I just like, I think what it is, it's more about Bayern has looked human at times already in the league. Are they going to be getting better under their new manager as the league progresses, or because of? I feel like we have seen the Bundesliga get better
Mm-hmm.
this season, but they're still obviously the top dogs. They're going for that tenth title in a row, and if they're able to, let's say, once again, not have to focus so much on the league and be able to just really push into focusing a lot on the Champions League. It just, I think to me, it depends so much on what Barcelona are you going to have at that point. They still have many weeks to go to figure it out. I mean, they've been able to have some tremendous, you know, Memphis has come on and immediately been a factor from the beginning. And can he continue to do that? Can Griezmann finally? I think still needs to find his footing of where he fits best in this squad. Honestly, for me, and I think you got to figure out who your front guys are going to be. But just like another team, I think we're gonna talk about Barcelona are very, very, very skeptic at the back, and that's where
Oh
Bayern
yeah.
really absolutely just take this entire group and just absolutely demolish through it. And Barcelona just kind of is the default number two. But honestly, I would say I think Benfica have a chance to kind of be a little bit of an underdog. I watched their two legs that they played, and that entire second leg almost for a huge part of that match, they had to be a man down, and they defended and defended and defended well, and they were able to sneak in. When you think, okay, that means immediately we should have lost that game to PSV Eindhoven, and PSV should have been the team that's here. Benfica held their own and were very, very formidable still with the 10 men. So I definitely think you need to be careful with just totally saying this is a Bayern Barcelona thing. I think Benfica could definitely, if Barcelona are careful, sneak up on them as well. I just don't know enough about Dinamo Kiev to really give much of a thought there. But still, uh, you know, interesting group to have, especially uh, the two classic basic rivals at this point between Bayern and Barca, with how many times they have faced each other in the Champions League. Speaking of old rivals, I think we can't go through this without talking about what is Group B, which is kind of already being called the Group of Death. You have Atletico de Madrid, Spanish champions, Liverpool, who have, they still have basically almost the same squad as
Mm-hmm.
they did, years ago when they were the champions, and they did make that tremendous run to play them again here, and then also to have an old rival from back in the day of AC Milan to kind of sneak into this group as well. Of course, being an AC Milan supporter on the Italian side, that's cool for me to get to see this group. And then Porto, who's always one of those Champions League squads that they can sneak through, and then not just sneak through, but they can also kind of be dangerous sometimes in the knockout rounds as well. So this is going to be. Do you feel like this is worthy of being called the group of death, even though maybe this is not an AC Milan of years past, and Porto is kind of always that. Do you think it's more of a two-team group, or you think it is sort of your group of death?
No, I really do think that this is the group of death because even though AC Milan does not have the formidability and all the big names, remember their clash in the final against Liverpool, blowing that 3-0 lead. this is still a team that is extremely competitive in Serie A. And of course, Liverpool, with all their things under Jurgen Klopp, still going at it with Manchester City now that they've won a Premier League title, making deeper runs. And as you said yourself, even though with Portugal, their big three won't always match up to the best of your top five leagues, that's still a team and that's still a league very, very dangerous. And those champions in those top spots, they can't be undercounted whatsoever. So, yeah, this I can definitely put as the group of death. I'm wondering how many points is it really going to take, or how many points you're going to get from this group to make it to those knockout rounds.
Yeah, certainly. It's gonna be one of those where like you go to Anfield and is Madrid going to take points off them again? Is Liverpool going to do the same going to Madrid? Is going having Milan do the same thing? And again, we don't know what kind of Porto we're going to get, so that's going to be interesting on all fronts on that side. What is I think your other like major headline I think out of this for you?
Furthering revenge, and especially with our team, Group F, I wanted to punch the screen at that Europa League final, at that penalty shootout. Now, here we go again. United playing Villarreal. Ugh, I'm kind of nervous in some ways because you have that mental factor, and with United still settling in with their signings going into the start of the Premier League season. I don't know. Those are two I'm definitely circling. It's like, give me something. Show that that wasn't a fluke.
No, definitely. I think there is revenge on the mind for Solskjaer and the boys at United. I definitely think watch out for Atalanta as well. They were formidable in Serie A all last season. They've continued to be that so far in the first game. And Young Boys, I think, is another one of those. Like the thing that tripped up Manchester United last season was Besiktas
Mm-hmm.
coming in and then losing over there in Turkey. Switzerland, Swiss teams have been interesting with Manchester United in the past. Sometimes when it used to be Basel, used to be a squad that you'd have with Manchester United a lot in the Champions League, and sometimes you'd see them struggle against them. So I think when you're going to those European nights and you go over to Young Boys and you maybe take them lightly and they could surprise you. They could certainly surprise you for either of these teams. And I think that's the cool thing about for me about Group F is that you're looking maybe Young Boys a little bit like a tier maybe below, but you're looking at three very equal teams and
Mm-hmm.
Villarreal, United, and Atalanta. So like they could really maybe knock points off each other, or just one could they could be really tight games, or you could see maybe blowout games as well, if depending on the form that each one of them is in.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very intrigued by what we could get out of this group.
Oh yeah. And Randy, we see in there. We may not be chanting that a lot during some of these matches we're talking about now, but it'll still be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what I'm excited about is how painful are they going to make this for us as supporters, as viewers that are just wanting to will United on, and then just watching. Villarreal is always those tough team. It's a tough team that like when it comes to these knockout competitions, they are always formidable. We saw it last year in the Europa League, and they do that as well in the Champions. So I mean, that's a thing that for me is interesting. I've really enjoyed watching Atalanta, so it'll be fun to see them here as well. We'll get into like making predictions for the groups here in a little bit, but I wanted to move along to some of our other topics first before we get into that. Of course, before we're getting into the topics, We always talk about what we watched this week. We already had our show on Tuesday. We basically the one thing that's kind of happened since then, aside from like Carabao Cup stuff, is and maybe some German League Cup stuff is the MLS All Star game that we had talked about on the previous show. Erica, the MLS All Stars win in a penalty shootout. Ricardo Pepi, that I'm going to be talking about a lot later on, was the decisive goal scorer with a goal that almost I looked like it was going to bounce out and then bounce back in. So, like, how should the MLS All Stars feel about this? I mean, you won against the Liga MX All Stars. You know, some vindication, perhaps, or what do you think?
I mean, especially with the Liga MX winning the skills challenge, you get to the game itself, and for the first half, it looked like what I've mentioned before. The Liga, those teams, those players were just simply better, getting all of the pressure, all of the flow up the pitch, and a very deserved goal. But then MLS, after halftime, making their substitutions, came back. They retooled, and then you had that goal like from Pepi. Okay, it was 1-1. But as much as MLS tried to push for that winner, they kept attacking, had a few key chances. It just wasn't enough. So 1-1, I will say it was very, very fair. The penalty shootout itself was kind of subpar, but I take it as okay. We know that at times when we have our best, we can hang with them. Now, instead of making it, as I described it, a tale of two halves, okay, let's get it to where we can put a more comprehensive 90-minute performance. It's possible, and this was a great start for that.
Yeah, the U.S. goal that I saw, set pieces again. It always feels like every time we're talking about U.S. teams or not necessarily MLS teams, but just U.S. versus Mexico, it's set pieces that happens on this again. And then I forgot who it was that made an absolutely a tremendous save, or not a save, but a challenge right at the end before a one of the Liga MX players could go make an attempt at goal after they had scored the first one not too long after. So that was pretty awesome as well. I think for MLS, you're obviously going to be happy. You know, this is something that they want to continue on for several like probably several years now.
Oh yeah.
And then they're gonna they got to win the first one. And I think that's always going to stand out. I mean, obviously you had some players missing on both sides, but still cool for them.
Yeah, this was a great foundation for it. And again, next year, if you have more of the top talent on both sides, you'll get to see something even better. And then going forward, as you say, for years to come, I think this is what we'll see for the MLS All Star game. And I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah, certainly. That's gonna be. It was fun. Fun is the most important thing. It went down to shootout, so evenly matched and everything. That's what you want to see out of an all-star game. You know, not necessarily just getting blowouts and everything else. So, I mean, it was kind of a short what we watched, but again, we're talking about a midweek thing, and there wasn't this huge string of games of things going on in midweek so far. But really quickly, right after this podcast is up again, Friday, the games start once again for the weekend. So another whole host of awesome club games to go watch, and some pretty big ones all around the different leagues. So we'll be plenty to watch and then talk about when we get to the regular show on Tuesday, which thankfully we will have Rachel back to talk about a cool topic that we already know is going to be on that show. So moving on here to our first topic here, we got to talk about the U.S. men's national team. the announcement of the 26 player squad already decided for these World Cup qualifiers against El Salvador, against Canada at home, and then going again to Honduras the 2nd, 5th, and 8th of September, respectively. And then we've gotten more news out of the COVID-19 red list that we talked about on the previous show. This is now extended onto Serie A. I mentioned that we have time before we get to those games. Even if teams name squads, the clubs can still come in and make changes. Serie A has now gone on and made along with the UK, and it looks like La Liga hasn't officially come out and said it, but they have come out in support of it as well. So we're just kind of waiting to see if they ever come out and officially support. And man, it's going to be interesting to see if this extends to, does Liga do it? Does the Bundesliga do it? Does it go further into Europe to where you start, talking about other leagues, the Divisi and whatever else? Erik, I mean, looking at this squad, you have a lot of the big names that you would expect, but you have some surprises in here as well. I mean, what stands out when you look at the roster as a whole for you out of these 26 players?
Well, with this, I get that the part of the purpose, because you have all of these going on, these close qualifiers, Berhalter was like, okay, we are going to need depth. And defensively, I think we're pretty much set. He's got the right idea for some of the big names. But up front, yes, you see the likes of Brendan Aronson, Jordan Pifok, who we see talked about young boys. So it's like, okay, if Pulisic still has issues, we've already seen him as far as with dealing with COVID already, how are you going to have these guys who aren't anywhere near as experienced, and even as you mentioned with Ricardo Pepi getting the call up, how is he going to get them to gel in time, knowing you've got these matches back to back to back? Am I worried that goal scoring is going to be a problem? Not entirely. But would I be surprised? Not entirely.
Yeah, I do worry about the three teams that you're playing against as far as goals, because you're going to an El Salvador, which is not an easy place to play. You're going to San Pedro Sula, which is not an easy place to play at all. We've seen how nasty those pitches can be when you go over there, and how much the crowd is on top of you, and how much that can be a challenge, and how tight those games can be at times, and nerve-wracking and intense. And that's sometimes where you need some of that experience to be able to kind of guide you through it. And that's something that I'm not worried, because this is what I want. I wanted Berholt to be able to do. I didn't necessarily want him to like go out and try to grab people just for experience, and then you don't get the best 26 or whatever that you could. Right. Now, there's still some question marks here, but I feel like if you're talking about one or two players, it's not that big of an issue. I mean, I think Sebastian Lletget to me is the biggest glaring one of, why are you still selecting him? He hasn't really done anything in a while. He didn't do anything at the Gold Cup that made me go, oh man, he deserves his place. Like, I don't know how you feel, but like everybody else, I feel is totally deserved here.
Oh yeah.
Sebastian Lletget is like the one sore thumb here where I'm just like, I get he's picking him for the experience. He's picking him because he trusts him. He's picking him because he knows him. Maybe it's a little bit of a Jossie Zardes is injured, so he couldn't go, and he wanted to pick someone else that he felt he could trust. But it's just like, Lletget just has not done much of anything, and it's like, you don't have anybody else in the midfield that you could have chosen. You could have put, I mean, like even Eric Williamson, to me, perhaps deserves that spot a little bit more. Obviously, I think like maybe Busio was the one you wanted to grab, or a Yunus Musa from Valencia, he's got the ankle injury, and Busio just hasn't played for Venezia yet. So, but man, I just feel like Lletget is the one where I go, man, why?
I would be extremely concerned if he again finds himself in a starting 11, because you mentioned at the Gold Cup, he was just invisible.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say you should be surprised if he is. They're going to have to rotate the squad.
Well, yeah, but the reason why I say surprise, and I get with rotation, and especially with the formation that Berhalter chooses, but again, it's that exact point, though. If you need someone for experience, fine. But if you're going to have someone for experience who's going to be just clearly invisible, that you're really going to have to pick and choose, because that's what he was. And even at certain times, with some of his touches and trying to get things in transition, or even locking down defensively in the midfield, it's gotten almost to the point to where he looks a bit lost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and maybe depending on if it's like, okay, we know we have this one result here, we have another here, and then we're going to need Lletget because he's going to be less of a liability for the match where it's in the standings. Okay, I get it from that standpoint, but I'm with you. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I think the rest of the midfield, I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I totally expect we're going to see Acosta and Adams playing together here as a double holding spot, and then allowing a Weston McKinley to go forward and do what he does, which is kind of join the front players, or these guys can get into the attack if needed, or they can make those passes you want to make them see. Christian Roldan is another player that he was pretty good at the Gold Cup, I thought, and he works well as a sub as well. And you've seen him; he's somebody that Berhalter trusts, has some of that experience. I'm fine with the Roldan selection in that part. I think defensively for me, I'm really excited to see this is going to be Miles Robinson's chance to really be paired up there with John Brooks. Is he going to be that center forward pairing that you really want to see? But they have some other ones there that you can definitely feel secure about, with Tim Ream or James Sands. George Bello making into the squad is a bit of a surprise for me at the left back. I think this really points to we're going to play the 3-5-2, perhaps, because you would have thought that you're going to bring some more fullbacks if you're going to play the four at the back, because there's no Shaq Moore. There's no Reggie Cannon. So, like, it's just Serginho Dest and George Bello. I mean, they could play the four at the back. They have enough center backs to play the four at the back, and you have DeAndre Yedlin, who is obviously a back as well. But it's going to be interesting if he's going to use that flexibility to play more of a three central in that way.
And I think with the way not only are we capable, but the more in vogue sort of a thing, playing three at the back now, it's worth a shot. If it's who you have as those, like, your wing backs, inverted wing backs, what have you, that's really going to be the key if you're going to do this.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see what, if any, chances Berhalter takes with the three sides that they're playing against. And Canada is one of the more formidable ones. Even if you are playing in the U.S., you don't necessarily want to take a bunch of chances with Canada being the one that you're playing. I think one of the more interesting things is the forwards here. I think Aronson has been fantastic for Salzburg. Talk about Champions League. He's one of the reasons why they are in that Champions League group stage. He was very important in both the legs for Salzburg. Conrad de la Fuente has been decent, actually getting some time at Marseille after getting no time at Barcelona. So it's cool that actually not somebody I expected. Cool that Berhalter called him in. P-Folk has actually been pretty good at young boys. Ricardo Pepi, of course, being an FC Dallas player, announcing that he has chosen the United States after we just saw, oh man, what is his name? Raji Robinson get selected for Chile, who's plays for Inter Miami. So he forewent the United States and went to play for Chile. I don't blame him. You got a lot of sort of like front players for the
Oh yeah.
U.S. Would he have gotten real playing time? I mean, this would have been further down the line. And with Chile, he gets a chance to really be in the squad with a lot of Chile's, golden generation aging out to the point where they're really having to start over. He can be one of those players that maybe perhaps you rely on there for Chile going forward. Ricardo Pepi, it's awesome that he chose the United States. As we saw with David Sanchez, a goalkeeper who chose Mexico, that's going to happen. As someone that's a dual national, I'm Venezuelan American. Like, I have passports to both countries. I understand how that feels to grow up with Latin family, grow up with the American family, and kind of not feel like you have an identity one way or another, but also feeling like, which one do I feel more accepted with? Which one do I feel like has had my back? Ricardo Pepi hasn't shown up for, like, it's funny because Sanchez was there in the Nations League. He was there under 20s. Ricardo Pepi was around for under 17s, and that's it. So, like, he hasn't had this long storied history of being with the U.S. national team in the youth ranks or whatever, and he chose the United States. So I think that's a good thing, and it's a good thing for the forward line because we still don't have this oh my God, this is your forward, right? Outside of Christian Pulisic, and like it's still a question mark. Right?
Yeah.
Like Josh Sargent came on, scored some goals on the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, sorry, against way lower league side. Does that, how much can you take from that? Tim Weah's playing in a Lille side that isn't anything of what they were last season. Gio Reyna's looked decent for Dortmund, so, but like that's not a lockdown thing. So Ricardo Pepi definitely has a chance to kind of come out and maybe stake a claim here if he gets any playing time and makes the most of it in any of these games here. Anything, I mean, and especially with Pulisic, we don't know what we're going to get. Like, will he be able to play at all? Depending on what happens with the COVID quarantine and all that. If he has any kind of symptoms before he flies out, that puts him in jeopardy, So
Yeah, he'd just be done.
Yeah.
And obviously, Chelsea, who not really wanting to release players anyway, that would just give an added reason. It was like, hey, he tested positive. He's not really going to be able to play for us. We've got to keep an eye on him. Sorry, if it gets to the point where it's like, well, he can't play for you either, then that's a whole situation where not only do we have to figure out our lockdown number 9, but sort out again a number 10. So, a potential mess. Potential.
Potential mess, that one for sure. But what's going to be interesting, I think, is once we get to the actual games, what lineups do get put out there? What do we see when we get to this? Do we see a bit more of a pragmatic approach when we're talking about going away to El Salvador or Honduras? Or are we talking about what happens when we are playing Canada at home? Does he take more chances? This is going to be a fun to look at. But I think the thing that we really need to discuss here is this COVID-19 red list. How much damage it's going to do to Mexico. Like, you're talking about a much different squad that Tata Martino is going to have to put out there. You're not getting to call in a Chucky Lozano, Raul Jimenez, Hector Herrera. Many of the Spanish team players cannot come. So. And if this extends onto some of the other leagues, like Tecatito Corona is being rumored for AC Milan right now. Like, that's quite a few of your big stars that don't get to move and don't get to come on these uh, and what are important qualifiers for Mexico.
Exactly. And mm,
Well, looks like
ah, had to mute my TV a second, alert system, but with yeah, random timing. But with these players, you're absolutely right. It would basically be Tata Martino saying, "Okay, I can draw primarily from Liga MX, and that's just about it." And then with these European countries, it's like, okay, Liverpool not releasing Mo Salah to Egypt. You've got a whole battle between Ligue 1 and FIFA about FIFA extending the international window so that way you have more CONMEBOL qualifiers
right.
able to be played. So you've got this weird sort of dynamic where FIFA's making the push, okay, we've already had to restructure World Cup qualifying once to make this happen. This issue isn't going away. We got to try. But then with these European leagues, it's like, well, we've had to restructure everything too. We're shelling out the money and signing the checks. We have to take precedence. So I don't know if at some point the Court of Arbitration for Sport's going to have to be involved. If someone's going to force that hand, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something that I mean. What hurts more is the South American squads. You just
Mm-hmm.
talked about how this has changed to basically the whole thing of World Cup qualifying was changed to help CONMEBOL get more of these games in.
Mm-hmm.
But Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, I think all of the South American teams are on this list pretty much. Paraguay, Uruguay, like Venezuela, all of them are on this list. And like it's insane how many and then you look at CONCACAF, Panama, Mexico, Jamaica, like El Salvador, probably they don't even know what that is, so that's not on there. Or like Honduras is not on there. But like Mexico is on this list, Peru is on this list. Like the entirety of CONMEBOL is affected by this. And
Mm-hmm.
you look at the depletion of Brazil has to send like a D team to CONMEBOL qualifying if this stands. Look at we could name probably like 3 different teams just based on the players that play in those European leagues that will not be able to travel.
Yeah, and
And if this extends to Liga and extends to Bundesliga, you're talking about no Messi. You're talking about no Neymar.
no. So not only are you getting the biggest stars out of World Cup qualifying, you had mentioned Brazil. Yes, they're a powerhouse, but if I'm any country, I wouldn't trust my D team, in essence, going ahead for these important matches. So thankfully, there's a more convenient structure with CONMEBOL where they use like a league system, and the top teams out of that league, since you're playing everybody, make it. But what if, on the off chance, you have this window, you maybe have another window where
But we're talking about the fall season, right? This could get
Mhm.
worse,
Yeah,
not better. Like,
and this is what I'm saying. You have this window right here. What if it's not just this window? What if it's another window when you're dealing with the same problems? Then you have so many more of those matches played. What if Brazil is so far behind that they wind up not making it? Or they need some miracle those last qualification windows next year to where they do make it. Then what?
yeah, I mean it's crazy how much this like the United States and Canada really benefit from this. They
Mm-hmm.
are on the green list
Mm-hmm.
somehow, even though the U.S. has a ridiculous amount of cases right now. Uh, like how much this affects almost every other country in that octagonal in the CONCACAF, and then also CONMEBOL in its entirety, and like how much you could see a Peru, a Chile, a Venezuela, Bolivia, like benefit from the bigger squads not being able to bring their top tier players, while their players who play in either in leagues that are not those top European leagues, or they're playing locally, so they're not a problem,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like, how much could we see like different teams from CONMEBOL really make a huge difference? Now, hopefully, more people get vaccinated and things improve. And when we're talking about October and November, this isn't a problem. But considering we're talking about the holidays, which is the same for almost everyone, with nearing that Christmas season, and we're talking about winter months for many of a certain hemisphere and all that stuff. Like, when people are going inside, it could get
Yep.
worse. Like, so yeah, this really puts the World Cup to me in danger of, is this actually competitive and actually fair to those clubs, to those international teams, to say, oh well, we may not be able to make it because of freaking COVID.
Absolutely. This is something that Gianni Infantino has to look at right now. Some sort of meeting with the heads of the ECA, all these countries saying, okay, what can we do? You're already not seeing a normal cycle because you're going to have in the Northern Hemisphere a Winter World Cup next year. I mean, as is, we're looking at 15 months. 15 months before the start of the tournament. Where are we going to be in the next 3 months? Where are we going to be in the
And
next
the next
6?
3 months are the most important, because that's when you have half of these qualifiers.
Exactly. So what are you going to do? Say in the off chance that not only do you have your release of top talent not being available, add an extra layer to that. What if some of these qualifiers end up having to be postponed or moved? That's another potential factor on top of that.
Exactly. Yeah. It almost feels like a headache at this point, right? To
Yeah, it
think about
really
all that,
does.
for sure. Um, I think before we talk about the Champions League again and actually give like our predictions and everything, let's talk about a little bit more in our like a last topic before we get to talking about the Champions League. We talked a little bit about Ronaldo,
Mm-hmm.
about him moving to Man City. We kind of, if there's reports coming out that Pep Guardiola is really thinking about his future, like, he, in 2 years his contract runs up at Man City. Could he make the decision to say, oh, I don't want to, you know I don't want to extend again with Manchester City, right? I don't want to. I want to go coach a national team. He said on the way, if I'm on a break and there's a national team that's available that I want to go coach, I want to go experience what it would be like to coach in the Euros or the World Cup or a Copa America or something like that. Like, could you imagine what that is like to? Does that mean that he really wants to make sure he wins right now? Is that why Man City's going after Ronaldo? And after they lose lose out on Harry Kane, and then what? So, like, do you feel like they can make Ronaldo work here with Man City? I mean, they really do need a number 9.
I think so. I think with the benefit with someone like Ronaldo, he's very familiar with the Premier League, playing 6 years at United and then playing against English teams from when he went over in the top 5 leagues, going now with Juventus before that Real Madrid. So if he's one, even though he is a little bit older, and we have seen some older players work in this landscape. And from a Man City perspective, you're absolutely right. This is a club that pretty much has the money to spend, loves to spend it to get these results. They're pretty much okay. 50 million, 100 million, 150 million pounds, whatever it takes. If this is what you need and this is what we have to pay to get these results, so be it. And the fact that Guardiola's already gotten them so close, they're like, all right, if you really want to leave, win us one for the road. We'll be happy. We'll build with something else. So those bosses are feeling that pressure just as much. So it's like, okay, we know we're going to be hard pressed to find someone with this talent right away who can coach all these guys. Let's go ahead, finish the job, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have the ability to, with especially with Holland, his dad played for Man City, so there's a little bit of a connection there,
Mm-hmm.
with him. I think that's maybe something they're looking at. Of course, there's also rumors of Real Madrid might go after him. Manchester United might go after him. He's going to be a sought after guy. There's going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
so many clubs going after him, especially if it's on a free at that point, or whatever his transfer fee is. People will pay it to get him out of there and bring him to their country or their team. The thing is, you're looking at this year, and you don't want to waste a year,
Mm-hmm.
or you know that you need that little bit of something extra, like you said, right? They won the league and they won it running away with the false nine and with the players they already have. And I think what is most important is, yes, they lost on Harry Kane. Harry Kane decided to stay at Tottenham. I don't think you need to really make that statement that he made, but whatever, that's his choice. But like, what is important here is the rumor going around is that they're going to offer Juventus like 30 million as a fee, and then that's gonna be what stamps the approval for Juventus to let him go. And talk about the difference between spending 30 million and not having to sell anyone, and then you had to bid 150 million for Kane, and you would
Mm-hmm.
have had to sell players, right?
Absolutely.
So now you can keep Gabriel Jesus and be another guy that feeds in, and have Jack Grealish and have Sterling giving the ball to Ronaldo, and then also them working all together and becoming a better squad. I think there's a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, Ronaldo's old. Why are you going after him?" Like, "Oh, this is more about the the outside, the promotional aspect, the not on the pitch stuff." Who cares? He can still deliver. He was the leading scorer in this Serie A last year. Until he's not doing that, well, why are you doubting him at this point? This is one of the like best talents to ever grace the game. Until he proves he can't do it, I would say let it be at this point. Uh,
Exactly. And even look at what he still did at the Euros with Portugal. As a team, they didn't have a great tournament, but him up front is like, okay, I'm showing even at my age, I still got it. And I'm going to keep going at it. So I get, and even for a club like City, saving 70, 120 million pounds is perfect. Plus, yes, you've got that promotional aspect that you can make that money back, but you're only being spoken about as title contenders with a couple other teams. Yes, you want to win the Champions League, but you also want to keep that separation winning another league title. So I get it from that aspect, and I think as much as I would have to root against him, it would be a good move.
yeah, as United fans, that hurts obviously to see somebody that start basically his career boomed at United and allowed him to go to Real Madrid and become the Cristiano Ronaldo that we all know. Now the legend was born at the other side of Manchester, and then to go over to City. It's that same thing of being at Barcelona, going to Real Madrid, going to Real Madrid, going to Barcelona. It's like it's that like, oh, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that, and it still hurts on that end.
At least he's not going to Liverpool. That would really make me mad.
Yeah, at least it's yeah, true. At least it's not that. But I think on the other side of things, is Kylian Mbappe, who he has made it known for a long time that Real Madrid is his boyhood club. He's
Mm-hmm.
always he sees himself one day at Real Madrid. That is where he wants to go. And then we have PSG on the other end, right? Leonardo saying, "Well, we'll let him go, but it's going to be on our terms.
Yep.
We still owe Monaco 35 million. We don't want to just let him go for less than what we paid for him or whatever." And so they're holding 220 million euros is the price Real Madrid have to meet. They didn't take the 160. They supposedly 180 now is the
Mm-hmm.
price, and that's getting them into the conversation. Do you think that this is just two clubs talking, right? We're talking about Kylian Mbappe going on a free, but PSG and Leonardo himself did say, "Oh man, what a travesty! Boo hoo! Oh, Mbappe would just be such a slap in the face if he went on a free next year." Do you think that maybe that's what this is? Like PSG is a little bit weary of, oh God, he could really go on a free and then we get nothing for him. Like, do we need to consider maybe dropping the price a little bit, even if we do need to play Monaco
Uh,
for that?
absolutely, because PSG has already come to Mbappe 3 times for a contract extension. Mbappe has said no every time. So he's telling them, look, one way or another, I'm gone. So if I'm PSG, yes, I would be freaking out if I lose him on a free transfer, because imagine if they get him on a free, what Real would be able to pay him contract wise. I know La Liga has their formula, how they have with signings and wages and everything, but so much more in wages that they would save on any sort of signing fee. That would be tremendous for him. So I think PSG is like bluffing a little bit. Inevitably, I do see the price going down. Probably sub 200, maybe going back to that 180 and then some sort of player swap. I don't know, but the more this goes on, summer transfer window is just about to close, a few days time. I think really when you get to the winter, that's when we're going to see the big move made, because then everyone will know this is
Well,
real.
they can't move in the winter because then Mbappe wouldn't be able to play in the Champions League.
Mm.
So, like, that's the thing. I think it's now or next summer. That's it. Like, and my thing that I think PSG, maybe not necessarily PSG, right? PSG, they can get anybody they want. It's whatever. I think for Real Madrid, you got to get this done soon because you got to start offloading people. You got to
Well,
start
that's
figuring
true.
out who you're gonna sell to cover this in this gross that you're gonna have come into the club now of Mbappe's contract and his transfer fee. So, you know, do you got to go try to find people? Do you got to go send Gareth Bale somewhere? Do you got to go and send some of these other players somewhere to cover for him? And I mean, that's the thing. And the thing is, Mbappe doesn't want to stay because supposedly he wants to be the poster boy. He wants to be the number one guy, and he knows he's not going to be the number one guy with the two pals, Lionel Messi and Neymar, there with each other. Do I still feel like he's missing out a little bit on playing with them for a season? Sure, but isn't there something to be said, Eric, for maybe he doesn't work out with them, right? Maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't gel with what Messi and Neymar get cooked up, and they know that they work together. They played at Barcelona, but what if this dream front line doesn't work out?
And that is definitely something to think about, because it's like, okay, how much time have they really been able to even get together and practice? We've seen Messi's debut be delayed. So How are you even going to organize that much with the formation with this front three? What are things going to work out logistically? And yes, Mbappe, almost pretty much like Neymar, going to PSG himself to try to be the number one, to, while he was playing with Messi, be out of Messi's shadow. Now he's in Mbappe's shadow, and Mbappe is like, okay, I don't want to be in anybody else's shadow. I'm here being in a big club. I want to go do something else. But can you step up in those times, maybe be second fiddle, maybe be third fiddle? If you're not happy like doing that and you can't find a way to make it work, and you've always got to be that number one, yeah, maybe it's better if he leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I do think his ego is getting a little bit too much on him for Mbappe. He's still a young guy. You're gonna go make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, whatever. But I also get it from PSG's perspective. They wanted to be happy there. They thought bringing big stars there would help, and apparently that's not the case for Mbappe. And I think maybe they're starting to realize, well, we kind of need to maybe get something out of him now because he seems determined to.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to extend, and he's going to make us pay if we don't. So let's see if Real bump it up anymore. If PSG bring it down, we'll see. We'll see if it's all semantics. But I feel like if they keep going on, Ronaldo's going to sign for City. They're not going to have a backup plan here. So
Not
they're
at
going to have
all.
to figure out something, whatever they decide to do. But, transfer window still has a couple of days to be open. I'm sure by the time we get to Tuesday, there will be a lot more to talk about on that front. Or maybe there's a deal done on both ends by the time we get to that. So we'll be able to talk about like the realistics of everything. But let's get into this actually giving some early predictions on the Champions League. I mean, we're still talking about a few weeks away before we're talking about the actual first games being played there. We don't even know what the actual like who's playing who first is up yet. But let's get into actually into doing this thing. So
Alrighty.
we talked about Group A pretty extensively. Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, RB Leipzig, Club Brugge. Where do you think this ends up? Group A, who's coming out?
Oh, with everything going on, and I am going to project slightly, given the state of these transfers, I think with Guardiola, he's going to want to send a message. So I think City wins it. PSG in a close second. And I'll go a step farther and say Leipzig, although they're right in it, they wind up going down, finishing third into the Europa League.
Yeah, Manchester City already broke the record last year with getting 11 wins in an entire campaign, which has never been done before. I don't know if they equal that again, but that could very well be the case. And especially if you get Ronaldo and they can get some kind of a gel going, maybe not in that first group of fixtures, but in the next ones going on beyond that, barring any, kind of injuries or anything like that. I think Manchester City are well equipped to get this victory, and I think they might actually, with a few points in hand, win this group. I wonder what's going to happen with PSG. Obviously, it's early days. We don't know what's going to happen if
Right.
Mbappe is going to leave. If he's not, let's say he does leave. I think that really hampers PSG because especially if we're talking about the last minute, that means they can't bring in any reinforcements at all.
Yeah,
Right. So it's as is for PSG if Mbappe leaves at the last minute.
yeah. I mean, honestly, if he winds up leaving at the last minute, I would say I'd swap Leipzig and PSG. I think Leipzig would have enough, and PSG wouldn't, to go ahead and nick second spot.
I think PSG with the star power. I think with the pressure. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine? You're bringing Messi in
Mm-hmm.
not just to play with Neymar and be make things all happy. It's to win the damn Champions League. You know, it's to that's what you're bringing him in here for, not to win league. It's to win the Champions League. It's to the promotional stuff. It's all that stuff, but it's to make a run in the Champions League. So for me, as much as I want to say RB Leipzig, Jesse Marsh, I talked about what he did with Salzburg last year. He has a better squad of players. He has the opportunity here, um, especially with the way we know he likes to set up and be tactical. He has the opportunity to really press both of these squads and make them earn it. I think there's going to be a falter down the line. PSG squeak by and do what they can. And then when she gets to the knockout rounds, it is what it is. But man, I think it's going to be closer. It's going to be closer than people think just looking at this stuff on paper. The group of death, we talked about it. Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Porto, and AC Milan all together. Look, this is not the AC Milan of old, but still a pretty formidable side, especially if Zlatan plays. We know what kind of a figure he is and what he does for Milan. Liverpool, again, if they can stay healthy, they have an absolutely formidable squad. And Atletico Madrid, with Diego Simeone there as the coach, and as the Spanish champions, they still have a really great squad as well. Man, this one I think is really hard, Eric.
It is. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, in my head, I can make a case for Atletico to win the group. I can make a case for Liverpool. I can make a case for Milan. The only one I can really make a case for winning the group is potentially Porto. But for second, I can make a case for all of them. Oh,
Yeah, hard, huh? I think Liverpool's going to wind up taking the top spot. As our dear friend Harry, who hosts the kickoff with you. Another one of our sports shows here on the WTM Network.
he'll be thrilled to hear that for
Yeah,
sure.
he says he was a little bit, worried about this. But I really think we shouldn't necessarily brush AC Milan aside. I think they will be in it until the end. I think Porto will wind up faltering at some point. Like Atletico Madrid haven't looked super convincing, but neither has really anybody in the Liga, honestly, so far. I think that with Simeone there, the way that team plays, the defensive solidarity that they have, I just can't see them not getting out of this group. I'm going to give the edge to Liverpool here just based on what I've seen so far, just the way that the squad have played. I'm going to say Liverpool and then Atletico Madrid. But like you said, man, it could be either one.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I can take Liverpool because of Jurgen Klopp and how they are up front. I'll throw Harry a bone and have them winning the group. In just that little bit of a shock, give me Porto for second.
Really?
Because,
Wow. Okay.
because again, second time in a week that I'm going to be making like shock predictions, but something about this and with the team that knows, all right, if we really have to park the bus, we can, we will. We don't care about it looking pretty. It'll get the job done. Give me Atletico in third. Barely. I mean, I hate to do this with Milan, but if Porto does as well as I can feel with this particular group, it's going to be one of those shockers about who ends up in last place.
Interesting on that end. That's going to be one of those to watch for sure. So like group of, I think we have two group of lives, if you want to call it that, for the Champions League this year, where basically it feels like almost anybody can get out. And I feel like Group C definitely, you could say that Dortmund definitely should get out with Holland as in there scoring goals and Giorena but I am just so worried with the way Dortmund have looked at the back. Just scary at times where it feels like they're just we're gonna have to blow out this team. We're gonna have to score a bunch of goals and you can't in these Champions League European nights where we're talking about having to be these are tight games. These are not
Absolutely.
games where you're just do you blow out teams? Sure. That happens. But it's like we're talking about intense affairs, right? Because you only have a certain amount of games where you can drop points where it will make it matter for you coming into the later fixtures. So I mean, obviously there's chances that they could bring in some players and fortify the defense. But right now, they have not looked convincing to me, and I worry about that. And I feel like Sporting as a team I don't think we know a lot about. They are, the Portugal champions. I think we definitely need to get in that. I mean, Ajax is a bit questionable. They aren't necessarily the old Ajax team, but I think they're still a team you got to watch out for. And Besiktas is always tricky, especially when you go to Turkey. Ask Man United last year what happened. Could they take some points off some of these teams? They definitely could, and be sneaky and be in the mix when we're talking about those final days. I definitely think we're talking about Dortmund being that number one team because I feel like they should take this group by a hold, but I there could be a team in third here or in that second between those three squads. I'm gonna say Borussia Dortmund and Sporting, but man, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if it was a lot tighter than you'd imagine.
And with something like that, Dortmund, yes, but give me Ajax as well, because even though, again, they're not the team of old, they still want to show, just like I was saying with Club Brugge, Ajax is another one of those teams in the Benelux region, with all this talk about the Benelux coming to be, it's like, okay, we want to show that we're still going to be the top dogs, and all these other teams are going to have to chase us. Unfortunately, that means Sporting gets third, but very interchangeable.
Fair enough. Something that isn't interchangeable. The same group as last year. Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk. Somehow all three of them wind up in the same group again. I don't understand how this keeps happening with the Champions League, but this is the fun stuff about Champions League. And then Sheriff, of course. I mean, Bob Marley would love to have a word, but still, Sheriff is in here. I'm sorry, Sheriff, but it is what it is. Shakhtar again. Do not sleep on Shakhtar Donetsk. They will take points from one of these squads, and it could be the points that matter in the end, depending who gets, first or second. Man, the way both these teams have been, I think, the top in their league so far as scoring and have looked convincing. It's hard for me. Let me say, maybe we're talking about Mbappe being at Real Madrid, and that puts him over the top. I think Real Madrid wind up getting that first spot. Inter Milan's right there behind them in second. But again, Shakhtar Donetsk is going to be interesting, I think.
As much as I would like Shakhtar, again, look at what Inter has been able to do, as you just said, now without Lukaku. Real Madrid, what they're trying to do now, and then potentially adding Mbappe. Give me Inter to take it, to win the group.
Okay.
Real second. And as much as Shakhtar gets those points, it won't be enough, but they will be in a close third. And Sheriff, well, everybody will get to see the wonderful beauty that is Moldova.
That's cool though. That's the nice things about the Champions League sometimes. Like when you had the Cyprus teams and you're
Oh
like
yeah.
having to talk about, and we're in Cyprus here for a game. Like you don't get to see that very often. So it's interesting as well. Um, so moving on to Group E, I think this is one of the look. I want to give Benfica the benefit of the doubt here. I think they will be interesting. I just think that Barcelona will eventually start to gel. They'll
Mm-hmm.
eventually figure it out. I think there's a lot of. They also want to know if they have something after Messi. I don't think it's this, oh my God, oh, woe is me. It's more to me about which Barcelona we're going to get. Are we going to get the Barcelona that we saw in the first game? Or are we going
Yep.
to get the Barcelona we saw in the second game that had a problem with Athletic Bilbao? Bayern Munich, I expect they're going to top this group. They're going to top this group. Probably with some points ahead of Barcelona, honestly.
Oh yeah, comfortably.
Um, I think it depends a lot to me on Barcelona if they ever get Aguero registered or not. That will make a huge difference. Do they sell some people to try to get him registered? Do they just sell him and stay with the squad? I'm just again same thing like Dortmund. Barcelona have not been convincing at the back at all. Eric Garcia looked beyond being able to handle it against Rival. PK had to sit out. He had an injury. Like it's like that defense does not look convincing to me, and that's right for Bayern to just absolutely explode and go through that, and maybe be a problem for Benfica to take some points too. But I still think Barcelona will wind up getting it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's just a matter of, and realistically, how much Bayern will win this group by. Could we see an astronomical, 16 points or something close to that, somewhere in the teens? Potentially feasible. But I think that Barcelona, especially if you have those like, Griezmann, Braithwaite doing what he did in the first match, give me them for a second.
Yeah.
Who would be third?
Benfica, you know it.
Yeah, maybe Dino Kiev does something against Benfica and they wind up stealing third spot, but I'll give it to Benfica for now.
Yeah, Group F. We're talking about our team, Manchester United, uh, Villarreal, of course, the Europa League final replay again. Atalanta, I talked about in Young Boy, is going to be interesting. As there's an American playing over there for Young Boys that you definitely want to be checking out. So for me, I feel like Manchester United is in a good spot here. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Solskjaer has the opportunity to right some of the wrongs against Villarreal, not just against Villarreal, but I feel like they should feel confident in this group to be able, if they gel well, if they can get Sancho into the squad and figure out how you want to rotate, figure out who you're going to freaking be starting in midfield for God's sakes, and if they can get all that figured out, Pogba can keep playing in his great form, Bruno Fernandes as well. I'm really confident United can do well in this group. But like we saw last year, again, they were flying at the start, and then they went to Besiktas, and oh my God, this happened, and they didn't make it. Could Young Boys present the same problem? I don't know. I'm gonna say Man United are gonna win the group, but I think Atalanta are gonna wind up in second. They have been really looking good to me. Again, Villarreal has not convinced so far. I mean, obviously, things change, things come different. We don't know who's going to be coming into the squad before then. But I think Atalanta will be sneaking in and getting the second over Villarreal for me. And Young Boys will have some points to celebrate somewhere
Yeah.
in there as well.
Can Unai Emery pull off the same magic this year in a
Yeah,
Champions
I
League.
mean, but he doesn't do Champions. He does Europa League. You know that. You know
I know,
his
but this
thing
is
is Europa League. Like,
and this is what I'm saying. Can he finally get together and pull off that same magic in Champions League like he does in Europa? I want to say no. I want to, but I don't know. United, they win the group again. Ole at the wheel. I'm much more confident, especially if he sticks to what he intended with the 4-3-3, trying to work with that. I'll take. You know what? For some reason, especially with those matches against United, give me Villarreal in second by a hair over Atalanta. Now, granted, I don't think he'll go far in the knockout stages, but he'll do something just so that way he say, "Hey, we're not just a Europa League fanatic team, and I'm not just a Europa League winning coach."
okay, I think definitely, yeah, would be a step up certainly if they were able to get second in that group. Group G is that other, I think, group of life for sure. Here you got the French champions Lille, Sevilla, Red Bull Salzburg, and Wolfsburg from Germany. Man, Americans galore here. You got Tim Way at Lille. You got Jonathan Brooks at Wolfsburg, and oh my God, we just talked about him. Uh, Aronson at Salzburg. And for me, this is Sevilla's group to win. Sevilla have looked really good in La Liga. I think they are primed to keep doing that. They have a tremendously good squad. They are the best team in this group by far for me. Lille is not the same team we saw last year. They have lost some of those players and they could lose more. They lost their coach to Nice. So for me, I feel like there's a downgrade there, and we're gonna see that. I don't know that it's gonna be this absolute like abomination or whatever, but I definitely think we could see one of the other two teams go ahead of Lille here, and I'm gonna go for Salzburg. I think with what I saw in the qualification stages, I feel really good about Salzburg. Perhaps going through behind Sevilla and squeaking past Leo and Wolfsburg to get that second spot.
See, I don't know. While I'm with you on Sevilla, give me Wolfsburg instead. But
Okay.
it's going to be between those Wolfsburg Salzburg matches. Whoever comes out better between those two teams, that's what's getting second place. Loser gets third. Lille, I think they had their fairy tale run, but they're just way too disassembled. And I think they're going to be over their heads,
Mhm.
even with this group. So, sorry, I don't see them going anywhere.
Fair enough. Group H, I think, is pretty much done and dusted. We know
Mm-hmm.
what's happening here. As much as I'm sorry, Rachel, Zenit, St. Petersburg, always nice to see them. Always nice to see a Russian team in there. Malmo, good for Sweden to have a team in there as well. But this is Chelsea Juventus. Chelsea Juventus. Juventus lose Ronaldo. I think they're still a very fine team. Still a damn good team. I think though Chelsea's just got too much firepower.
Oh,
Chelsea's
yeah.
got too much. This is let's let's say a catastrophe happens, or Juventus winds up beating them, or Chelsea just drops weird points somewhere. I think this is Chelsea's group to lose, very
Mm-hmm.
much like Sevilla's group and Group G. Chelsea uh, win this group handily. I feel like Juventus is going to get second because of the two other teams that they have to play against. But I will be absolutely shocked if Chelsea doesn't win this like going away.
Absolutely. True Cole, he's like, all right, let's go ahead. Same again. Let's run this back. We know what we've got. We can do it again. And then adding reinforcements as well. Chelsea, Juventus, Zenit make a good showing in third place. Malmo, maybe they get a fluke point. Maybe.
Well, that's it. That's your Champions League draw. Obviously, we'll be talking more about once the games, get going ahead. We'll include that in our what we watched and all that stuff. But hopefully you enjoyed our special edition of Soccer to the Max on a Friday show here. We'll be back on our regular scheduled Tuesday night airing, Wednesday for y'all on the podcast end on demand. Well, until then, I hope you enjoyed this. For Erik, go follow him on Twitter at Squid Sportshead. Follow me at W10 Sean. Go check out the rest of the stuff at W10 Network. Erik has a American football show if you enjoy that. The kickoff that you should go listen to, go watch on video as well. And of course, if you like the video games, I host a video games to the max. We'll be recording a new episode Friday. On Friday nights. It'll be Saturday sometime. That'll be up for y'all to listen to on the podcast. And we'll talk about the Gamescom opening night live and everything else that's going on that front. And of course, check out the rest of the stuff on W2 Network. All of the great stuff Mark Radlish does on the entertainment side. They are always reviewing what's up to date. So getting ready for that Shang-Chi movie to come out on the Marvel end. So, make sure you give us a follow at W2 Network on Twitter as well. Go subscribe to at W2 Network or wherever there are podcasts to get everybody's stuff. Or just, you can subscribe to us at Soccer to the Max as well. We just appreciate you listening. Thank you for for being a part of this. And hopefully you've liked our return with, a different look at things. We'll be back on Tuesday. We definitely have some Weston McKinney news to talk about, and definitely some Rachel will be talking about what's going on with some women's international stuff with additions of tournaments that might actually mean something and not just friendlies as we see the women's national team have sometimes. But until then, we'll see you later, everybody. Bye.
Peace.